All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming to check out this edition of the Hubs Creators Meetup, where we share knowledge around Hubs, Spoke, and Blender and help the community create better Hubs experiences. With us today, we have Ronnie, aka Crimson, and he will be taking us through some avatar creation from sketching to Blender to Hubs. Take it away, Ronnie.
Hey guys, thanks for that super intro, Matt. It's really awesome to be here with you guys, and I hope it'll be fun. I'm actually not feeling 100% today. Coming, I'm recovering from a bit of a cold, so it's been a little tough few days. So bear with me on that. Um, I know a few of you have done a couple of avatars before. Imaginer's got a pretty custom one there right now. Chris, I'm not sure which Chris you are. Not from the Hubs team, I don't think. Yeah, I remember that. So, I just wanted to gauge the room of the skill level of the different tools we're going to use. Yeah, we got you loud and clear there. Cool. I just wanted to check where everyone is at on the tools, the like Blender, Photoshop, and I guess Hubs itself. Amateur, amateur. Okay, cool. I'll try and run through a couple of things like in Blender. Blender's going to be the main modeling tool to get things built and created. So if you haven't got that, oh, that's great. Chris is advanced. How about Velvet? I don't think I saw anything from you there. We've got another person coming in. And in what way? Just knowing the tools, and how to get around Blender. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna put up my display. All right. So does everyone have Blender ready to go? Installed and maybe even open? That's cool. All right. Uh, so of course, this is Blender. Generally, you want to get rid of all the startup stuff, like the default cube, maybe the light or the camera. But you may need it if you are doing other things like other hubs, things like the new camera, a video target things where you will use a camera. So it's good to like not delete that if you're going to use that, or if you're making a video webcam avatar, you might want to keep it around and pop it onto your avatar at some point. I think that's how it works. I can't remember now. But we won't do that. I think that might be a little too much for now. So if everyone's familiar with Blender, yeah, okay, we'll skip that. Hey Smew, welcome. Generally, so I'll go through a little bit of my workflow, which actually starts off as a sketch. in Photoshop or some other drawing program. And one of the things that's useful to me is actually if you draw in symmetry. So if you in Photoshop or your drawing tool, you might have an option to turn on like a symmetry mode. So here's the one for Photoshop. I know that Sketchbook has a symmetry mode, and if you have VR, a VR headset, there's Gravity Sketch that also has symmetry. And Procreate on an iPad has symmetry as well. Sorry, I'm just going to check the chat there. Oh, great. Krita is another nice one that's open source and free. So yeah, drawing in symmetry is usually quite helpful to just, it's easy to draw one side of it, and then you'll have both sides going, and it kind of helps your brain think of what it's doing, what you're drawing. I don't. It kind of helps me a little bit. But yeah, so this is something I was drawing earlier, which I thought we might want to model as we go along. So if you want me to start a new sketch, I could do that as well. It takes not very long to do something. Like you'd start off with the maybe the torso. Just basic stuff for now. And Hubs kind of makes it easy because you don't have to deal with a lot of things like the limbs, which is, I like it. Yeah, and then we can go on to doing a head. So I'm just freestyling right now. I might have started this a bit small. If you have a mouse, it's I'm using a tablet. But if you're using a mouse, you can actually turn on the smoothing. So I'll switch to my mouse quick. Increasing the smoothing will help you just draw your strokes a little neater, which is pretty handy. Yeah, I guess I don't know if you get the picture, but that's kind of how it goes. With just some rough ideas. I wouldn't, not for hubs really, go with a lot of detail. Just kind of have fun drawing things. You might want to just have some reference, like what I'm thinking of while I draw this one is kind of like Mega Man-esque type of. So I'm still drawing with the mouse, by the way. Yeah, Mega Man-esque type of like design style, or like Metabots maybe. That's also, I like those robots that have these kind of horns. That's pretty cool. And these type of characters, like if you're into mecha design. They're quite easy to make hubs avatars out of. So, and like Meetup over here, who's the main character in Metabots, he's like super simple. Like you can see how you can just have this part of his hand here as without this, it would work quite well and still read really well. Yeah, there are a lot of cool, like this is really awesome. I like this type of, these angular shapes that they have on these Japanese designs. So I'm very heavily influenced in that when I create stuff. But yeah, you can just have fun with that, and yeah. This was the one I had earlier, which I think is not even as good as this one I did now. I don't know. This one might be a little too low res. From here, you could work on it for another hour or two and get some like better proportions and things. But I think I will go ahead and start going with this one. So not doing too much, I'm just gonna save this as an image and pop it into Blender. Whoops. Thanks. Just try like think about basic shapes when you're drawing. Like I don't know why I saved this as a PSD. Maybe I should talk a little bit about why is it that I can't save this, in fact. Is it... Yeah, that's a little small, but it's okay. Yeah, let me just talk about some basics in sketching, I guess. So, I mean, if that's a thing, you can actually just go right ahead in and start off in Blender and do basic shapes that way. But I find like you can easily just erase parts of your mesh. Like here I've actually separated, like maybe I wanted to use this basic structure of this one and add more other stuff, so I could have variations of this part. So I find sketching is quicker to iterate. But yeah, I would start with just basic shapes, like that's your head, maybe this is your body, or you have a small head, big body, or it's more of that type of shape head. And this kind of body. And try and see it in 3D, like you imagine, like, so here's the front corner of the face, if that's the, if it's like, if I drew this in 3D here, and let's say the eyes were there, so this is obviously like a higher angle of this, something similar. I'm still using the mouse, by the way. But if you have your rough form, because that's all it is forms, you could even have a cylinder. I'm going to quickly switch to the stylus. So if this was like an arm, for example, you'd kind of connect like another part of the cylinder here. So you imagine this is the other cylinder that I'm drawing, and then here's the front part. I'll draw that, and then here's the hand. It's going to be here. So you just start building your basic shapes, and then you can kind of fill out the forms more. So maybe it's a bit skinny at the top, and then there's this little bit of a bump here. And then here it gets a bit wider for that part. Yeah, and then of course the body would go in there too. It's a bit of a practice thing. It may not be for everyone, this approach. But I find it really does help iterate your thinking a lot. Did I say that? Yes. What's useful in Blender is if you turn on an add-on called Import Images as Planes. It will pop up in your import menu, and you would choose that so that you don't have to make a plane and then make a material for it, and then assign all of that. So there it is. It's also got the proportions of the image as well. If I turn on the shaded view there, you can see the texture now. So it will help from this from now to maybe get the correct scale, which is if you don't have the Blender HubSpot, I mean the HubSpot rig, you should know that it's 1.7 meters high. And I just get something like that to have just a basic proportion thing. Somewhere around there. Let's get rid of that guy now. And if you don't know where to find it, I will post a link in the chat quick. Whoops, that came in with a Google. Everything okay there? I heard someone having a problem. Why is this link not working? Is this link working for everyone? think I got it there. It's that one. It's a direct link to the blend file from their GitHub. So once you got that, you can go ahead and import it, or append rather. I think it's in my downloads here. I got 2 of them now. And then go to the armature, or yeah, I think that should be fine. Because you don't want the whole robot with this, so seems like we need to scale it a little bit more down. Doesn't look perfectly centered. So I'm just matching where I think the eyes should be. Like about there. And these are your eyes here. These 2 pointy bits. So this is your armature, and this will control the mesh later when we have a mesh. Is everyone with me? Where it came from? Yeah, so I downloaded it, which is in my downloads. So in Blender, if you go append, or if you can just open up. I'm just gonna save this quick. You can open up the blend file. So here's my downloads, and here's the one that's linked in the chat there, and you'll see that's how it comes in. You can get rid of the mesh here and start from here, but it is a little bit helpful that you have everything clean, because sometimes you don't want things that are here, like maybe your avatar doesn't have hands for now, or it may not have. Actually, that doesn't really matter, but this is kind of intimidating the way it's laid out actually right now. So if you're new to Blender, this is like, whoa, what am I looking at? Everything's like pre-configured for an advanced user. So it's kind of easier, I think, if you're starting out, and you just go ahead and append the armature, which is pretty much all you're gonna need. So again, here's my downloads folder, and don't worry about this one, it's just I downloaded it twice. That's the avatar base export, and I'm gonna just double click this and browse through the file and look for its armature and select it over there, and here it is. Yeah, exactly. It's also you don't want to ruin that file. Keep it as your template where you get all your base stuff from, or if you want to refer to something. There's actually a lot of interesting things in that base file. Like there's morph targets that aren't actually used a lot in the hubs avatars. So there's this cool blink that you never really see in any of the avatars. So if I look at this guy, you can see that those little shutters for his eyes don't actually come down. It's kind of the idle animation is actually coming from these eyes going inwards. I have to choose this animation. Hope this doesn't look too intimidating right now. Okay, so this is animated, but I don't know, is it being used, guys? I'm not really sure anymore. Maybe it's been updated. So I'm just looking. Yeah, the blinking is kind of like a faked, well, I assumed so. It's just a faked, it's just going in like real quick, like that. But you guys don't have to worry about all this for now. Like, this is a bit more later down the line with the animations and stuff. So we'll go back to the simple looking scene. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, I hope. Stop me if something gets a bit too confusing. I'm going to go to the object menu and is this okay? And go add menu and go add a cube for now. So here's a cube now and it's covering up everything. If you're not familiar with Blender too much, you know the mouse wheel, when you click the mouse wheel down, is to rotate your view around, and the scroll wheel is to zoom in and out. And to pan down, I hold shift and click the mouse wheel down, or middle click if you still have that. Cool. Is that fine to like navigate? Cool. Right, so from here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Blender has the pie menus enabled by default. So when I push tab, the pie menu pops up, correct? Excellent. So once you get used to it, you can actually just pie menu slide to the right and you'll go into edit mode, which is like a quick gesture. So you go into edit mode. So you push tab, click into edit mode, and you're in edit mode of this cube. If you want to go out of edit mode, back into object mode, which is the default mode, you want to push the tab for the pie menu and click on object mode. But over time, you should just force yourself to get into this habit of swipe left, tab, swipe, slide, swipe with your mouse, slide with your mouse. Move your mouse real quick to the left or right to switch between the different modes. And when you get even more used to it, there's the other things like the weight painting and the texture painting, which we'll might get into a bit later. So back into edit mode. You can see that this is really too big, so I'm just going to scale this down. Now I'm scaling it down in edit mode because if you scale something and it's not in edit mode, then you have to apply its scale afterwards for multiple reasons. So I'm scaling with the S key and dragging with my mouse. So scale is the S key, that's the shortcut. If you really want to, you can use these buttons here, but it really will be beneficial if you just learn the keys, because you don't have to move your mouse around too much across the screen, which kind of over time I think will improve your speed as well, because you don't have to like move back and forth. You're staying in your working region. It's like keeping a tool belt on you rather than leaving all your tools on the table that's like 5 meters away from you that you have to go and walk up to it and get the right tool every time. So it's like I've got my tool belt right on me. The G key is to move things, also known as grab sometimes. So if you push G, you can move it around. And what's important about moving things is to try and lock it to a certain axis. So if you push the grab button, G, you'll see it kind of freely moves when you move your mouse around. What you want to do is lock your axes usually when you want to be accurate with your model or your modeling. You lock it in a certain axis. So earlier I actually moved it up to the position of the head here by locking it with the Z key. So I push G and then Z. Not sure why that doesn't come up on the screen keys here. But it's G and Z, and you can see the axis gets locked with this guide here. If I press Y, it will lock on the Y axis, and then X with the X axis. You can also deselect an axis. So if I push G and I don't want the Z axis, so I want it to slide along the X and Y axis, I go Shift and Z, and now it will slide along the X and Y. So if I'm in this view, you can see it doesn't go upwards. So here's normal grab, and I'm going to restrict it to just X and Y, and there we go. That's just a little bit of a helpful thing, but generally you just want to go Z and X and Y by themselves. Having said that, if you have the X-axis active already, you can also add one by pushing Shift and... Oh no, that doesn't work, sorry. Always think of it as when you're using Shift and selecting an axis, you're removing it. So if I have X and Y locked and I want to remove Y, then I go Shift Y, and then it swaps it to Z. Yeah. So here we go, we're going to start working on the head now. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller, so I'm going to scale that down a bit more, and then move it down a bit more. Here is the different sub-object levels of this box, so which is very important. You get vertex, edges, and faces. So I'm going to switch to vertex because I want to start scaling these around independent, like not just the whole cube. I want just parts of it. So you can either select these two verts or vertices here and scale them, or you could select the edge and select that edge over there and scale it down, whichever makes sense to your brain. Everyone's brain works differently. I'm going to select this back edge over there and scale that down. Select this and scale it down as well, not too much because I do want to have like a jawline over there. Select this back edge again and then make sure that I'm moving it straight up. So again, I pressed G and then locked on the Z axis. G and then Y axis to move that frontwards. And we can already see we have, kind of like how I was drawing earlier, we have like a basic form going. And I'm just going to make it a little, so I'm going to select all the edges now and scale them. I'm going to squash them like this way, sideways. So that's again S and then Y while having everything selected. And maybe a little bit more thinner on the X-axis. Okay, I think that's as far as I'm going to go with that. It's an iterative process, I find, so the more simpler you start with your shapes, over time you'll start adding the details. So I'm going to start adding some detail now. So I'm going to go Control R for loop cut. And that's just, I'm going to cut through across the mesh here to make another side of the cube that I can, pull around as well. So now we've got a cut down the middle. So that was Control R. Or you can go to the tools on the left here and go click on loop cut, and it'll tell you what the shortcut is, which is Control R. And you'll get a guide that comes up on your model. Once you click it, you'll get an opportunity to slide your edge that you're cutting into the cube here. And you can either confirm it as it was, I right click to exit that, or you can like move it forward for some reason and then confirm it again with the one of your click buttons. I think it's, I can't really tell you which click button because I'm still with the original right click is select. I don't know if you noticed on the screen keys I'm using right click to select things, which is some people might be optionally on left, so don't mind that too much. If you're not really happy with where you've put your loop cut, you can slide it with this thing, and you can push it up without like distorting your edges. If you don't use it this way, you can see it sliding along the angles of the edges there. If I don't use that one and I use this one, it'll kind of distort in a strange way. Whoops. So I'm just going to put that back in the middle there. And what I want now is to kind of scale this in now, to have that smaller front, and then I'll push it down. I'm just going to check the chat quick. Yeah, GG's another trick. Thanks for that. The eyes do pull into the edge, you can see. Right. It might seem strange that I'm covering my reference with this mesh that we're building. If that's a problem for you, you can select your image plane and go to the object properties and change its visibility here so that, its viewport display, and you can put it in front. Why is that not working? That's strange. Is everyone else having this problem where it's not actually putting this in front? I guess in my case I'm gonna have to is it the screencast keys maybe? Oh, Blender's not responding. Alright, yeah, why is that, man? That's annoying. Okay, in my case I'm gonna just add a material that's a little bit transparent. Of course that's not gonna work either, eh? I'm not too sure. It might be because I'm also using too much, like OBS is running and I don't know what. Got hubs in the background. But if you guys are all good, then what you can do as well is just move that on the side there. Alrighty, I'm gonna go back to the mesh here and start adding other details. So I'm gonna put another loop cut up here and scale that there, and I'm gonna say that's cool for now. I'm gonna start adding some of these other parts now. So I'm gonna select this piece of the mesh, and I'm gonna duplicate that with Shift D, or you could go mesh menu and then duplicate. And here's the piece. So I'm just gonna right click to reset its position to where it was. And I'm gonna separate by pushing the P key, and as you can see, there's the P. Choose the selection. Go out of object mode, tab menu and object mode. Select my little visor piece that I've made here, and then go into edit mode. And now I'm going to grab some stuff here and scale that according to what I had over there in the reference. Make a cut down the middle here, pull that down, push it forward a bit, maybe scale these inward a bit. Looks cool. I'm gonna now, you can see that it's like this flat piece of very thin shape here. I'm just gonna extrude it a bit and give it some volume. So I'm gonna hit the E key and just move my mouse a little so that it gives it some more dimension. And now we have this nice thickness. I'm gonna go ahead and do more adjustments. You can also use there's a quick symmetry mode up here. There, it's not perfect. Sometimes if you move something in a particular way, it loses the symmetry. But since we kept it really simple, it should be working. Sometimes you don't actually have to lock on axes. You can just move things by eye. Like at this angle, I'm just gonna hit G and then move it up here. Sometimes you also want to just focus on the model you're working on, and I'm gonna push I just want to see what it's called. I think it's called local view. And I'm gonna toggle the local view. I set a shortcut for this. But if you go to that view menu and local view, that's your friend. Then you can focus on this thing and without any of that other stuff being in your way. I think here's a symmetry problem. That's what I was trying to warn you guys about. The symmetry broke over here. So this one is inwards and this one's like, it's a bit wonky over there for some reason. To fix that, you can use the true symmetry mode. I'm just gonna delete this side of the mesh and apply a mirror modifier. think it's, yeah, there it is. Now you can only really work on one side now, the right side of the mesh, because the left side is built by the mirror now. I think that's kind of cool for now. I actually want to give this a nice curve down. Like that. Maybe over here too. That looks interesting. Cool, let's work on the head shape a bit more again. So everything I'm doing now will apply to the body as well. This is just your basic modeling, you know. Should I have a more pronounced jaw here? Like that. Sometimes you want to select a whole side of things like this. I want to select all this. But because the model is solid, you can't like select everything behind. So I'll do that again. I'm drawing my selection box here around this, but I want this whole back section. Only this bit of them is getting selected over here. You can go Shift Z to get this see-through type mode. What is this thing called? Toggle X-ray. There we go. Sorry, it's Alt Z. Shift Z is wireframe. Alt Z, and then you can see right through your mesh, and now you can select those parts. So I'm just gonna scale this. Is that right? Sorry, I have proportional editing on by accident there. Just rounding out the head a bit more because it looks a little too flat looking. I'm gonna push that down there. Alt C again to get a solid look. I hope you can see we're starting to get the shapes in 3D of this drawing. I'm gonna get this front visor thing as well. Technically you could do this as a texture if you start painting your mesh. So sometimes you could do that as, it doesn't have to all be geometry. Like the mouth and this part of the visor here can be textured. So I'll actually skip that for now and I'll do these little earpiece things. Let's talk about the 3D cursor for a second. I'm gonna select this edge here and I'm gonna go Shift S, which gives you this whole other pie menu, which is very useful to moving your 3D cursor where you want it to be. So I want my cursor to be where the selection is, and the 3D cursor is just this little red and white circle with a crosshair in it. Wherever this 3D cursor is where you create things. It's like if I make another cube, sorry, this is the Shift A menu. the add menu. It's the same as this menu here. That's Shift A is the shortcut to bring that up. Wherever that 3D cursor is where you are going to be creating your objects. So I want to create a cylinder here. So I'm going to go Shift S and then swipe down, because I know down is where this option is. And you can stay in edit mode. It'll just create the cylinder inside this object. You can keep things as singular objects for now. So now that I've got my cylinder here, it's not in the correct orientation. Now I'm gonna just quickly rotate that with the R key. And same with the move and the scale, you can lock the axes, which in my case I want Y over here. And that looks cool. Earlier we put the mirror modifier on this piece of the mesh. I'm going to do the same with the main head now. So I'm just going to localize the view for this thing. So I'll go to the menu and then toggle local view. Go into edit mode and go into that X-ray mode and then select all these edges. Delete them. And add the mirror modifier again. If your object is a little off center, it's not going to apply the mirror modifier correctly. So you might have a little gap in the middle like that, because your origin might be in the wrong place, depending on where you created the object. Hopefully everyone's like neat and symmetrical. Yes, that's correct. Yes, you can symmetrize in edit mode as well. But it's good to have this history of what you've done on your mesh that's non-destructible almost. Unless this actually adds a modifier. Excuse me. Right, so we have our little ear guy there now. So what's good is when you're making things, I'm just going to hide this side here of the main part of his head here. So I'll push L to select this only without having this selected. So I hover the mouse over this side, push the L button and then hide it away. And what I want to do is get rid of this inside face here, because since you can't see it, we don't need it. And this kind of helps when you don't want to add extra parts of the mesh that need unwrapping, that takes up the resolution of the texturing later on. So the more things you can remove that you don't see, the better. I'm just going to unhide the mesh that we hid earlier by going Alt H. Whoops, that's the J button. Okay, I'm going to pull this in. I'm using that double G. Why is it doing that? This is actually a bit too far. It's too deep on the inside, so I'm just gonna select that edge loop on the inside here by holding Alt and then selecting, and then you'll see I'll select that whole ring of edges there, and I will just move it a bit out closer to the other edge loop. Select this one and scale that down, and then I'm going to put a cut in the middle here and scale that up to give it that round bit that we have in the drawing. Push L just to select this whole sub-object and just get it a bit more aligned to the silhouette of the head there, the profile there. And you can add more more details, making more rounder. So I'll extrude this here, that's the E key, and push it out a bit more. And scale that down, and now we've got an even rounder shape. I'm just going to select this edge loop again and push it in a bit more. That was a little too much. Alright, I think you guys get the picture. I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick body now as well. So I'll go Shift A and create a cube from the add menu again. Or you could even start from a plane, which sometimes is also, it helps your mind think organically with topology or the flow of how the mesh flows across something. Instead of having like a large volume to work with, you work on like a smaller area of it that you can kind of focus more on. So I'm just going to rotate that and push it forward a bit and go into edit mode and scale down the selection. So now you can see how I've created it where the 3D cursor was earlier. So in this case, if I added the mirror modifier, it's kind of a bit strange because it's not in the center. If you've done that, then you can just kind of reset your location of your I can't remember, is it Alt G? Yeah, Alt G is to reset it to the origin. So that basically just zeroes out the X, Y, and Z positions of the object. So you can see its location is on 0, 0, 0. Earlier it was like something like that, close to the 3D cursor up there. So Alt G is pretty useful for that, although now I have to go ahead and move it up again. Also, how this mirror modifier can get bust is if you kind of in edit mode and move your pieces around in a strange way. But I think it's still making sense right now because it's still a very simple shape right now. So when you're working with a plane this way, you can kind of just push E and extrude parts down like this. So I'm just pressing the E key and then moving the mouse around to where I need it to go. To where I want the flow of the topology to go. This way you can kind of add detail on the fly. So if I wanted to build this kind of front plate that I have here, I'd actually push this forward here like that and then upwards. So now I have that little corner that comes out. You will have to neaten this out a bit by just selecting down the middle, and a quick way to reset its is if you scale this to 0 on the x axis, while one of the ones that are it's actually better. So you want to reset reset the 3D cursor. There's a lot of things about Blender that there's so many ways to do something. Like you can set this to 0, so that is all in the center. Or you can use the 3D cursor, reset a 3D cursor, which is Shift C. So if the 3D cursor is up here and you go Shift C, it'll snap it back to the origin. If you do it that way, which is easier, to line up these guys, you would select the verts over there, and I'm going to use it's the angle bracket key next to the question mark on near the right shift button, and you can choose either active element, which would be, we choose that one as our active element if we want to scale everything towards that one, or the 3D cursor. So I'm going to choose the 3D cursor and then scale everything down on X, and it'll push your verts back into the center. Yes, another thing is you can turn this clipping on here, and that does that prevent it from moving? So that actually stops you from, that's a good tip as well. It prevents these center ones from moving away. So that's really cool. But sometimes you want to keep it organic so that you can keep it open here and use this edge to build more of your mesh. If you want to switch between different views, like I've gone into wireframe, that's the Z key for this pie menu, and material view is the one with your textures, or you can go to the rendered one. Again, you can get used to these gestures, so I already know like that's solid, that's wireframe, and this is material at the bottom. It really is gonna help you a lot when you want to go a little quicker. It becomes intuitive, and then your modeling becomes a bit more organic. I'm just gonna close up the body a bit more, and then we'll go into kind of rigging this up a bit, I think. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it takes a lot of practice. But it is fun, and sometimes it's therapeutic. Sometimes it can be annoying. If you want to close up two edges, like I've got these two selected here, you can just push the F key, which is, I think of it as fill. So it fills a face over there. Maybe it's face, even. Alright, so I think we're nearly done with this part of the modeling part. Oops. I'm going to skip the hands. Same principles are going to apply to the hands. For now, see, there's a whole other thing you need to we'll need to texture this guy and unwrap it, and there's a long journey ahead of us here still. But for now, you could just use like Vertex colors, which is a quick way to slap on some color to your mesh. Which saves on texturing as well. At this point, I'm actually going to combine everything into one mesh. So I'm going to select everything and then just of the mesh, don't select armature, and then go Control J, that joins everything up. Then you can kind of quickly go into, so I'm going Tab menu, Vertex Paint, and then see what happens when I stroke on this guy. You might have to switch to this shading mode. There's a shortcut to fill your mesh with the selected color, that's Shift K. And then you can choose different parts of the mesh to fill. So if I have this selected, I can right click on parts of the mesh and fill that with a different color. Oops. So we'll go for like a gold, orange, Shift K on that. If you want to see what that looks like, make sure you, in this, so there's a lot of ways you can look at this. In this shading mode, if you go down here and choose a vertex, you'll see the vertex colors, or the texture, or any of these options. But these are the ones you're going to be working with. You will probably might have to go into the shading tab and even add a vertex color node here. So that's in the input menu. So if you go to the add menu, input, vertex color, choose the one that's in the list here and then plug that into the base color, and then it'll also appear in this shading mode. So you'll have it in both this one, and even this one actually. Back into the basic layout though. I'm not going to do too much more here. Maybe I'll just fill this thing. Yeah, so the front is this is the front. I never really think about it because the armature will always guide you to which way it's facing. So if you have your armature and for some reason it's this way, then that's I'm not sure what happens when you do it this way. I think it will still work actually because the camera is just going to go where the eyes are. But generally you want to just make sure it's always, your face is always, you know, lined up with the eyes of the face of your guy or your model. Another quick way to select things in Vertex paint mode is, it's that L button I was showing you guys earlier. So I just push L on the things, or Shift L. So I actually want that whole thing. There were some red bits there that I'm going to just fill on the top visor piece. And I actually want these ear guys to be white. You can go a bit further and shade this a bit more. So select your red color with the S key to get the color pick and drop the shading down and the color to a darker color, and then you can kind of paint in some, some highlights. Why is this not sometimes it's hard to paint on this stuff. I think I still had something selected there. You can also fill on verts, so if I have these verts selected and I hit Shift K on them, they'll also you can also fill that. I'm going to leave it at that for now, so that we can go ahead and put this on the rig now. So if you have your armature here, and in pose mode, so that's tab pose mode, while the armature is selected. You'll see that if you rotate the head here, it's not gonna do anything because it's not bound to the armature yet. The mesh isn't bound to the armature. A quick way to do that is just to select your mesh and select your rig or the armature, go Control P and choose the automatic weights. Straight away you will see that if you go back into pose mode while the armature is selected, the head will be bound to the head bone of the armature. And there'll be other deformations as well. You can, if you want this to be more rigid, so if you don't want this bone to influence, like if he's a mechanical creature like this one, you don't want it to bend organically like this. I can't remember how Hubs does it, but it might turn, when you turn your head, this will follow slightly, one of these things. Or in the case where this one's influence is a bit, it reaches down to this part of the mesh too much. Sometimes you want to avoid using necks because of this. It's a bit complicated to get the weighting correctly on. So you'll have weird, it will take longer to get it perfect. But if you want to work on, so I'm just going back to object mode so that I can select the mesh. and I'm going to go into weight paint mode. This is the tab menu again. Weight paint. The color will change. You can actually select your bones by holding shift and selecting where a bone is. So I know the neck is over here, so I'll select there and I can choose the neck or the head. And you can see the neck doesn't influence the body, so that's pretty good. But sometimes sometimes the neck does influence the body too much. But Blender's actually pretty good at with its automatic assigning of the weights. You can see now this isn't actually fully weighted. So I'm actually gonna paint some more strength into it. Make sure you're pretty solid on where that main bone is. So just make sure you're covering quite a good ground here. So this is a mechanical guy, so I'm actually just gonna force the whole bottom part to be weighted to that, was it the hip? It's either the spine or the hip. Let's go for the spine, the hip. So I'm gonna put 100% power of the hip bone onto this whole bottom part of the mesh. So select the mesh in edit mode and then select all that stuff. And then go into weight paint. Make sure you have your selection paint mask on. And then again you can fill the weight, which is Shift K, the same as what we were doing with the Vertex colors. And now we have that whole thing set to the, I think I forgot to change it to, okay, it's on the hips, but you could have used the spine as well. So here's the spine. Now it's full to the spine. So it's on the hips and the spine. So I'm just going to make sure the spine is on 0 weight and then fill it again. Just so that you know it's going to be clean. We can do the same with the head. So I'll select all the head parts. Weight paint, choose head, and make sure your weight is on 1. 1 is full. I think I said 100% earlier. Now we know for sure that the head is fully weighted to the head bone. That's pretty much it. This guy's gonna come in real nice now. So all you need to do, I think this armature has a component on the head to scale, yeah. I think, was there a question about the components earlier? One thing about the hub's components is you might think you need to put a component on the armature here. So you might want to put like scale audio feedback when you want the head to do this scaling when you're talking. You actually have to go into either edit mode or pose mode. Yeah, they both pick up where that component is, and that's where you put your scale audio feedback. I just want to double check that the eyes aren't influencing the head, which it is. So I'm just going to set the weight to 0 and fill that. Choose the left and right eye, and then make sure it's not doing anything. Cool. That's pretty much it. We can go ahead and export, I think. Yeah. Oh, just make sure you delete your references, or you can put them into a collection. So I pushed the M key to get this collection menu, and I'm gonna go and move them into a reference collection and turn it off, and then export. I'm just gonna go ahead and export right away. Jump back into Hubs real quick, change name and avatar, choose your custom GLB and find it. Oops. There it is. Oh, so here's a problem with the mirror modifier. We'll just have to, you can either, if you're happy, apply the mirror modifier, or I think this will work if you just have that on. But if you have shape keys, this can interfere with the shape keys, I think, sometimes. There's so many little things about. There we go. And I will choose him. And is he the right orientation? That could be because of the, let me just, he's sideways. Yeah, that's definitely an influence. I am going to apply this. Just make sure this is still. Oh yeah, I'm on the side of the other avatar I was facing. I'm just gonna double check him now. Get rid of this one. Come on. Of course, the more time you spend on this, the better results you get. I might have rushed this a bit too much. There's definitely a lot of troubleshooting that comes along with making these things. How's everyone else doing? I'm just going to export this and see which orientation he comes in. So that seems... What is that thing? I'm just gonna quickly bring this in again. That's so strange. Okay, so I just gave him a simpler rig. I'll try and see if that worked. Whoops. Get rid of him again. Come on. I think the head isn't appearing either, hey? Alright. I'm just gonna apply all the transforms again. It might be because I mixed modeling techniques and one was inverted at some point. Does it look right now? Is it scaling the head when I speak? Ah. Did I... Okay, I think the problem is that I combined too many techniques in one go and flipped the wrong mirror at some point. Or something. So I applied the... I just hit Control A and applied all the transforms. I mean, everything looked fine. So it was a bit weird. I'm just gonna bring in the armature again and try it one last time. Yeah, I actually should have. I actually used it automatic there, so that was a extra step for me. Because now I have to go and clean all the eyes and stuff. Let's just see what the eyes do. Oops. Yeah, that's not good. Too much influence. So let's get rid of it. Alright, here goes nothing. Still getting used to this new UI. A lot of the instances I work with don't have the new UI yet. Oh wow. Still not. That's interesting. Unless I'm just too exhausted to see what I've missed here. Yeah, it's really annoying. And I actually make so many of these things. So oh, I think that could be some of the problem here. I noticed there were quite a few armatures in here as well. So I don't know if, and there were no, I didn't have any actions on them either. That's cool, man. How did you, so the animation, there was that dying one that you had on there. But what else did you do? Oh. I might know where I went wrong here now. Because I noticed none of the animations were in here. So this one should be fine. Yeah, this is actually I'll explain how this went wrong actually. Whoa, there goes. I think so. I'll have to just test to be sure. Darn it. Let me just start with empty groups because it's cleaner. I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, they're still here. Let me just delete them all. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, there's a delete all there. I don't often do that. It brings them all in, but they're probably empty, like not weighted. Alright, here we go. Where is that actually? I think that yes. I just tried that, that didn't quite run through. So here's edit mode. Is it not this over here? So I chose head earlier. I don't think that gives it the weight though. Okay. Okay, that's cool then. One more time. Yeah, there's so many things you need to know about Blender. Really? Alright, so now I'll know at least if one's a new one. Is that everyone? Is everyone's view looking like that? What? Okay, cool. Well, everything else broke. Okay, so what it is you can't actually append from the armature folder. It doesn't come with all the good stuff. You have to go down to either the object and choose the avatar root here. I didn't expect that to be the case though. Interesting. Yeah, well, so there we go. I mean, should have seen that the arms weren't in the right pose from the beginning. I didn't notice that. The way I noticed this problem is because there weren't any actions in the file here. So I was just going through the thing of what is remnant or what is like not correct in this Blender file view. And that's just something I noticed there, that those guys weren't there, and there was quite a few armatures still around. So it's good, like, yeah, I think one of them is still a thing. Let me just save this and reopen it. Yeah, now there's just one armature. Yeah, I mean, we could go all day on this. There's many ways to make an avatar. I've actually covered quite a few ways in this guide that I think we will share out later today. Like there's the non-rigged ones, like from Sketchfab, you want to grab a either rigged or non-rigged character from Sketchfab. So there's this one. Yeah, so this one has its own rig, and I can actually show you that when I have it still around here. So, um, then there is also yeah. Yeah. So there's also if you find one that doesn't have a rig like this guy or one of these other ones, there's a particular way you can do it from Sketchfab that I cover in this doc as well, um, which includes downloading the GLTF and then converting that to GLB for hubs, which is a little bit of a problem because you actually have to go edit the texture mapping in the GLTF before you convert it. Yeah, that's true as well. So so that's down here. Yeah. So that'll go out. Yeah, if there's any other questions you might have in your experiences. Like if you ever built one and you had problems with the hands or something like that. Or I think earlier in the last 2 weeks, someone had a problem with their hand poses because of not exporting it with this option turned on here. Which actually I should have done that. Like this has to be off when you export. But there's when you're in the yeah, because that interferes with the hand poses. They like start using the wrong keyframes for the different hand poses. Because the hand poses are in fact like animations, so it puts like extra keys and then it kind of gets mixed up with overriding the poses. Um, you don't have to have that. You can actually take I'm just going to show you one that has hand bones and extra. I think I used the eyes to put wings on this avatar. Uh, Let me just find that quick. All right. So this. So what I've done here is I've just weighted these little wings here on the eyes, and the eyes just do that. So I keep the hand poses and everything. But I don't think you really need to do that. You can just, I think you can just add bones. I haven't done that, yeah, and that should just work fine. This was like early days. Oh yes, you can actually animate these avatars as well. I think I showed this in a previous thing. Uh, so this avatar here has some animation, I think. So yeah, I mean that also works. Just trying to straighten him out. There we go. So this is something I tested for at my work, just to see if we can do like a tutorial type of avatar guy, like, hey, welcome to virtual reality. So that yeah, that was the idea, just to see how much how big an avatar would be with a lot of animation. So it's like 200 kilobytes for 10 seconds, I think, something like that, of this level. Um, something like that. Yeah. I wonder why it is that my hubs went all dark. So everyone has no materials except for the, yeah, except for the VR cam. Does that have Vertex textures on it? What else? Yeah, I hope that. Let me send you that link. Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. Sorry about all those technical things. Sometimes. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's just that it's not original. I can actually show you a quick. I forgot that I had a screencast of. I started building one in Gravity Sketch as an experiment. Yeah, it's a free app. It used to be paid, but they made it free now. Uh, uh, yeah. So this is. It is VR, yeah. So that's just me doing Captain Marvel there, and I'll show you what I have so far in Blender of this. So I think this is about uh, 3 hours or 2 hours. I can't remember. Okay, start it over. Let me find that project. So that's the rest of it there, and kind of. Yeah, obviously it's not done yet. Still working on this, but most of it's done in Gravity Sketch and then brought into Blender. So that's probably not, no. It's just an EV effect, yeah. I'll probably use something else to do the eye glow. But yeah, this is far from finished, so... yeah, something like that. Oh, I missed that one. Hey. Oh, right. That's cool. Oh, there it is. That's cool. That's really cool. I can't see anything though. Ah, there it is, the glow, yeah. I still have to restart though. Well, guys, I gotta run because it's after midnight for me.
Well, thanks so much, Crimson, for sticking with us and taking us through all these different techniques.
Thanks, guys.